Welcome to part 3 in this series of videos where we will be creating a birthday reminders application using a Blazor server project. I'm going to be using Visual Studio 2022 Community Edition to develop this project, and I'll put a link in the description to where you can download the Community Edition. I'll also be using .NET 6. In addition, I'll be using Azure Active Directory B2C for authentication, Dapper to interface with the SQL database, Syncfusion Blazor controls, MailKit to send emails, and Hangfire to send emails automatically. A lot of the code for birthday reminders will be built on my previous experience gained during the development of the purchase orders project. However, to avoid constantly referring back to previous videos, I intend to make this documentation as self-contained as possible. Therefore, please forgive me if you've already watched those videos. In this video, we'll look at creating the project in Visual Studio 2022 and linking it with the Azure B2C authentication. So today we'll create the Blazor server project in Visual Studio 2022, and then we'll link it with the B2C authentication service that we've already created in Azure in the previous video. So let's get started. Start Visual Studio 2022, and we're going to create a new project. I'm going to choose a Blazor server application, and I'm going to give it a name. So Blazor birthday reminders. I'm going to leave the location as the default, and I'm going to leave the solution name the same as well. Click Next. We're going to leave it as .NET 6 and authentication type. This is the important one. Here we're going to choose Microsoft Identity Platform, and that will allow it to link to the Azure B2C authentication service. I'm going to leave Configure for HTTPS and click Create. We'll then get this message saying we've got some required components, and we'd simply click Finish to install these required components. This is to do with the Microsoft Identity Manager. And that's it, done. Before we can go any further, we must add the Azure B2C authentication. This appears to be a two-way process. Firstly, by adding the application URL from the project into our Azure app registration, and secondly, getting some settings from Azure and updating appsettings.json in our project here. So using Solution Explorer, we find Properties, and we're looking for Launch Settings. So open that. And what we want to do is copy the HTTPS part from here, localhost : and then whatever that number is. Notice that this is in the second part here and not in the IIS settings up at the top. So we'll copy that to the clipboard. Now we need to log into Azure. I'm already logged in, but notice that it's the default directory here. We need to be in the directory where we created the Azure B2C. So select the icon here and change or switch into the directory where we've got the Azure B2C. From the main menu, select Azure Active Directory And from here, we're looking for app registrations here on the left-hand side. It will show us our one and only app. Click on that. And what we're looking for here is the redirect URIs. So click Add a redirect URI. And next we need to click Add a platform. So if you click the plus there, and then select Web. And what we want to do is paste in there our local host, whatever it is. And then we want to, and this is most important, we need to add onto that slash, and it is sign in -OIDC. Click configure. And I've left both these items ticked and no need to do anything else, so that's fine. Leave Azure open, but go back to the Visual Studio project. The next thing we need to do is to get some information from Azure and put it into our project. And what we're looking for is app settings. And when we created the app, the template, because we said we were using Microsoft Identity Manager, filled in this section for us with dummy data. So what we need to do is replace this information, instance domain, tenant ID and client ID, with information from Azure. So let's go back to Azure. And the first thing we'll go back here. The first thing we're looking for is this qualified domain name. So back in Azure, we need that. And that's the easiest way I found to get that is to go to Home and then search Azure B2C. And here we have the domain name here. So we can copy that and paste it in there. So it's the whole of the domain name, blazorbirthdayreminders.onmicrosoft.com. So that's stage one. Next, we need the tenant ID and client ID. Back to Azure, and we want to go to app registrations. And we see the client ID and tenant ID here. So if we copy the client ID first, and paste, repeat for the tenant ID, and now we need to change this https login.microsoftonline.com. What we need there is a bit of a combination of things. So I'm just going to copy the name of the domain before the Microsoft online Microsoft.com. And what we need here is https and then our domain name. Copy the wrong thing. That bit. .b2c login.com/tfp/. So it's the domain name .b2c login.com TFP. But there's one other thing that's missing here, and that we need to add here. So I've put a comma at that line, and it's called sign up, sign in policy ID. And for that, we need the user flow name. So I'll just prepare that and go back to Azure. And we're looking for the user flow name. So if we go back here, no, best again just to search for Azure ADBC, user flows, and that's the bit we need. So I'm going to see if I can copy that. It's B2C underscore one underscore something. So copy that, put that in there. And I think that should be it. So I'll save everything and run it. And at this point, we seem to have got the Azure B2C login. I mean, it looks a bit bland. Maybe we'll make it look a little bit nicer at the end, but I haven't signed in yet. So let's sign up. And you have to put in your email address. And click this button to send a verification code. So I'll just make sure I've got that typed in correctly, which I have. And send verification code. So that sent it to my email address. So let me just start that. Here is the email that's just come in. There's the code. So I'll copy that, go back here, paste it in, and click verify code. So that's fine. It's accepted the code. So I've got to put in a password. I'm just going to let it suggest one. Now my display name, this is the name that's going to appear in the top right hand corner when I've logged in. And to make sure that it looks distinctive from everything else I'm going to put in here, I'm just going to put Chris. My given name is my first name. My surname is my surname. Click create. Save my password, and I've logged in. So it says hello Chris, and we've got the standard Blazor server web app. If I log out, I've logged out, so let's close that. And let's try logging in again. So I'll run it again. This time I don't need to create the user. It's remembered me, I can sign in. And there we are. So that completes this part of the video, this finishes this video. We'll look next at a bit more of the setup in the next video about adding Dapper and linking it to a SQL database, adding the Sync Fusion controls, and anything else we might need at that point. And then we can set about actually changing the application away from the demo one into something more useful for us. I'll put links in the description for anything that I think is useful. Thank you very much for watching, and the next video should be coming along before too long. Thank you very much.